I am absolutely convinced that I had the worst Arnold experience of this year by far, primarily due to a reason I'll be explaining later, but this is my Arnold 2026 experience, beginning to end. Let's go. So I was never even supposed to go to the Arnold. I just hadn't had it planned out, but I find myself on Friday, the day before the biggest day, buying my flight, buying my motel, buying my tickets. When I finally got it all settled, it was like 1 a.m. I was gonna catch a flight in the morning at like 7 a.m. I was gonna get like 5 hours of sleep. That was the plan. So I wake up at 5:30 and I go to the airport. My flight gets delayed once. I think, okay, I can sleep in the airport a little bit. So I set up camp with an alarm. It gets delayed again. So I set the alarm a little bit farther back. Then it gets delayed again and again and again. I'm from Dallas. If you don't know how the DFW airport works, there's 5 terminals, A, B, C, D, and E. And I actually visited every single one of those within a span of like 5 hours because of how many times my flight got switched to different terminals. And it wasn't in order, by the way. It wasn't A, B, C. It was like A to D to C to E to B. And this lasted for about 5 hours until finally they said it was canceled. I kind of knew it was coming, but at that point the Arnold had already been started. It's been going on for about an hour, so I knew I was going to at least be late to my first day, but the only other flight option they had would have got me there at 10 p.m. So I knew it was either go home or just settle for that. So that's the first bad thing that happened, is my flight got completely canceled and I ended up missing the entire day. I ended up having to get on a flight that had a connector in Philly and then finally got there at 10 p.m. So I'm waiting on the other flight. It gets delayed about 5 times till we finally get on, finally make it to Philly. I get on my last flight, which is the only flight that actually boarded within the hour it said it was going to board that day. And I finally get in, and you know, I'm pretty disappointed, but I think, you know what? Let's make today worth it. You guys have probably seen Pro's Gym around the internet. A bunch of people film videos there. Everyone goes there during the Arnold. It's right there next to the expo. I grab a airport muffin and I order an Uber to Pro's Gym, thinking, you know what, let's just make one thing out of today that can be worth it. And you know what, I bought some started having a pretty good workout. It's a pretty cool gym. And then I started seeing people, a lot of people, like a lot of influencers. And I saw some fans, but then I feel a presence walk in the room. And everyone starts looking over there and I see this mob forming. And above them all standing is Larry Wheels, which was a crazy sight, seeing Larry in person. It did not look real. He looked way bigger in person. It was just a ridiculous amount of aura because all you saw was Larry standing and this discipleship of people just started accumulating. So that was probably the coolest sight that day. And I thought, you know what, maybe this trip isn't over. Maybe there's some good fun left to be had. And I was thinking I'm gonna get some protein, get to my motel that I already had booked, get some nice rest finally, and have a good day tomorrow. It was my plan, and that's how I thought it was gonna go. Spoiler alert, it didn't go that way at all. It eventually gets to like close to midnight when I finally call my Uber to get over to my motel that I had booked. I realized that we started driving through a part of town that does not look like the part of town you would want to be in. We get closer and closer to my motel, and my Uber driver's telling me to stay safe out here. Once I get dropped off, I don't know where I'm at because it doesn't look anything like the picture of the hotel. And listen guys, I paid $50 for this room around there. I knew it wasn't going to be good. I knew it was going to be trashy. I have stayed in trashy motels before. This was beyond anything I could ever even imagine. There's trashy, and then there's where I was at. This was the worst motel I have ever been at. So I get in, I already can tell this is not going to be fun. There's holes in the ceiling. There's furniture just like blocking a hallway that has like, the ceiling is literally fallen down, and there's wires and stuff everywhere. And all they did was put a couch in front of it and some wet floor signs to keep you from going over there. And I was like, okay, what is going on? I had to wait 30 minutes for this guy to print out a piece of paper and write my room number and my door code on a sticky note and give it to me. I barely understood anything that this guy was telling me. He had some accent and he just really didn't seem like he was fully there on earth with me. I grab my bags, I take my little sticky note, I'm walking to my room, which is around, I had to take like 3 corners, so I had to walk down like 3 hallways, and all I could smell was weed and cigarettes and some other smell that I wasn't super sure of. I heard really loud music, I heard yelling, I heard people yelling at their baby mama, if you know what I'm saying there. So bad situation all around. I just want to get in my room at this point. The last thing I wanted was to meet anybody staying in that hotel. So I finally find my room, I punch the code in, and I walk in, relieved for about 0.5 seconds until my brain could process what I was looking at in my hotel room, which was somehow 100 times worse than everything I had just previously seen. So I walk in, there's drawings on the door. There is like a pile of loot, some homeless dude's loot just sitting there, just gray loot in a corner. My first thought is, holy crap, I'm gonna turn the corner, there's gonna be someone sleeping in the bed, like they gave me a used room. But sure enough, no one's in there, I'm completely alone. I read this guy's note. So David here has gone to catch a train, and I am in his room, it appears. Everything else looked super bad. You see the bathroom there. It looked like, you know, it just got rampaged for some reason. All towels, every towel, soaking wet in that corner there. And the smell here, guys, that questionable smell that I said earlier, intensified by like 10 times here, as well as the weed and cigarette smell. And the TV off the wall, there's another one in the corner, I don't know if you can see it. Got some trash over there. Curtain rod is like hanging off of it. Bed unmade, of course. Some questionable fabrics over there. One bed is kind of made. Hey, look at that. Some stains on it. And then there you have what appeared to be drugs on the microwave. What kind of drug? I'm not sure. Maybe cocaine, maybe heroin. I don't know what it looks like. So yeah, and there was also, I didn't get it on film, but there was like a bunch of holes in the drywall, one of which had latex rubber gloves sticking out of it, which was beautiful. And immediately I knew that I was not staying there. I would rather do anything else than to stay there. I wanted nothing more but to get out of there as soon as possible. So I started calling up hotels immediately. Hotel after hotel, everywhere is booked. It's the Arnold. There's not a room in any nice hotel in the area. Finally, I get one that's about 15 minutes away outside of the city that has one singular room left. $600. I said immediately yes. That's not me saying I'm rolling in it, guys. I had spent a lot of money this weekend. I didn't want to spend a dime, but I would have given everything I had to get out of that room as soon as possible. I didn't even want to touch the bed sheets with a 10-foot pole, so there's no way I was laying my head anywhere near anything in that room. I get in an Uber, get there about like 2 a.m. at this point, low on food, low on sleep. And when I tell you, I have never been more happy to see just a regular hotel room, just a normal hotel room. Like, this was the most beautiful sight ever. Fresh bed, you knew it was fresh sheets, no trash anywhere, no drugs anywhere. This was a beautiful sight. I Uber Eats some McDonald's, it was the only place open. Dogged a couple double quarter pounders, and I went to bed. At that point, I prayed to God and I thanked him for getting me out of there. I got as much sleep as I could, which was about 6 hours. I went to the Arnold the next day and tried to make the best of it, and it actually ended up being a really good day. I just met so many people. I went to the Gorilla Mine booth and I hung out with them. I got to meet everybody behind the team, Code Houston, if you want some peak supplements. And it was just an awesome experience. I met a ton of y'all. I met so many fans, and that was my favorite part, is meeting y'all, taking pictures. And it's just crazy how much more that kind of increases while you're there. Sometimes, you know, someone sees me and they're like, I don't know if that's him. Being at the Arnold kind of eliminates all of that questioning. So a lot of you guys came up and I enjoyed every second of it. Took a lot of pictures with you guys. It was awesome. It made it all worth it. I ended up hanging out with some creators afterwards, caught my flight back, and that was it. Yeah, so while I do think it was the worst Arnold experience ever, I think it fully turned around that last day. I have no regrets on going. It was a great trip, but I find it hard to believe that anybody else going to the Arnold had a situation quite like that. Drugs in the motel room that you book is a new one for me. I might be wrong. There could be worse out there, so let me know. But that was my Arnold 2026. I had a great time overall. It was well worth it. I love seeing you guys. Just did a restock on the Fear Not merch. So we got these jackets and the pants. Everything is on the store, wagesofsin.com. Y'all seem to be loving this. Y'all are also loving the flag. It's called The Triumph of Christianity Over Paganism. You can barely see it. I'll throw a picture up. wagesofsinstore.com. Everything's there. I love you guys. God bless. I'll see you later.